Okay, so there are different kind of a storage provider. In this case, you can provide store any sort of information you would need. Okay, HANA is ideally suggestible to be used in case of some sort of a data or record. In case of some media content, we can go with, let's just say, currently you would be using some sort of a Google Drive, which might have got some API if you would like to upload some attachments over there. Another one which I mostly prefer in case of this corporate requirement is, I can say, Azure Storage Cloud. Okay. So the idea behind this is this Azure Storage Cloud will help you upload those things. I can say will give you a place where you can store those attachments. For example, I am saying I would like to have 1 TB of a storage so that during that particular year, I can upload any information, any files which are being uploaded into this particular space. All you need is just a address point in order for you to identify where actually it is being stored. Okay. So in order for us to understand where it is being stored, there are different, let's just say, components of Azure Storage Cloud. Okay, so we have to understand Azure Storage Cloud a bit. So for example, if I am saying that I have got, let's just say, Azure Storage Cloud over here. Okay, what it would do is this Azure Storage Cloud will have some sort of a area, logical area. So simply consider that I have a assessments which I was doing. Now I can have different assessment. I can say 1, 2, 3, right? Now in one assessment, someone has uploaded 3 attachments. In one, someone has uploaded 2 attachments, and in one, someone has uploaded, let's just say 1. So in this case, there are different ways. Either you can simply go ahead and upload this attachment here, which will dump somewhere and you have to keep the address of it. Or for each of the assessment, you create a separate pool of the attachment. So for example, here I am creating, let's just say 1 pool over here. So I can say there is a whole storage cloud which can have different set of folders. So I can have, let's just say, 1 folder over here, 1 folder over here. Okay. Likewise, you can have different folders over here where you are planning to upload all the attachment. So this particular folder that we are talking about are termed as a Azure storage containers. So in each container, you can upload different attachment. You can upload n number of attachments. Okay. And these attachments are ideally termed as a blob. So there will be an Azure storage cloud which will have a area where different containers can be created, and these containers can contain files. I can say those containers can contain attachments, and those are called as a blob. Okay, so we'll just consider it as a blob where all your files will be uploaded. In order for us to connect to this, right, it should have got something that we might need a subscription for, right? And that's where we have a specific thing called portal. So you can go with simple portal azure.com, which gives you a area where you can simply look for any subscription. So for example, you need some virtual machine service, you can look for it. If you need some Kubernetes service, you can look for it. If you need some storage account as well, you can go ahead and create that as well. Okay. So what you can do is you can simply go over here in the storage account and simply say create. It will allow you creating that particular storage account service. Now, this service is something that you can use going forward for your file storage. So for example, here I am going and I'll plan to create one subscription over here, which will be linked to my account. So like in BTP, here we also do have a trial concept. You can go with that one. And you can give a storage account name, the area, like we have a region in BTP. That's the same concept. You can choose the kind of one. I can just go with always with the standard because that's something which will almost cost you zero if you are using it for your learning perspective, for your learning purpose. Okay. So like I also did the same thing. I created one account over here AS style storage account. That's the one that I created already. After you edit those three things, so as I can say a name, which is style, location, West India, okay, subscription, standard, all these things after I have added, I can see my storage account is ready. Okay. Same way, if a corporate person is creating, they'll always go with a premium because the number of attachment and the access they need will be on higher side. Plus, thus, let's just say the data charges will also be always pay as you go. So for example, I am saying that I would like to view all those things. Those are stored over here, right? So I can simply say I can have some storage account which can contain some sort of a containers, and this container can again contain some different containers. Okay, so for example, I have got one container over here which can have different set of files. That's possible. Okay, so as we don't want any old one, I can just simply go ahead and delete this as well. You can manage this. That's totally fine. But what ideally would happen is that the moment you are saying you are in a storage account, you can have n number of container. I can create one container. Within a container, I can upload n number of media files. And this particular files that we'll have will be uploaded via SAP system. Okay. Now, in order for me to uniquely identify, so for example, I'm saying that this is my assessment number one, which is having 3 attachments. Okay. So what I can consider is that there I can have some attachment table, or I can say attachment links table, okay, which will contain the link for that attachment. What I'll contain is, what it will have is, it will have, let's just say, some sort of a attachment ID. Okay, this attachment ID can have some MIME type saying, okay, whether that's a Excel, or let's just say some sort of a PDF or image, or whatever it could be. Okay. Afterwards, rather than containing a regular content of it, it just contains the address for that Azure. So what a Azure address can be comprised of? Azure container ID, because we'll need a container ID for that. Plus, it will also have your Azure file ID, or I can say Azure blob ID, right? Blob is nothing but your file in terms of Azure. So if rather than storing an actual attachment, I can store this one, and this two things over here brings or contains an address using which I can reach out to my file over here, then I'll be able to upload my attachment, but store it in a place which is kind of much cheaper and much easy to maintain compared to that of the HANA database. Okay, that's what we are planning to do. Okay, now the question remains saying, if I am planning to do all this thing, okay, if I'm planning to do all this thing, I have to find a way to connect, or I can say communicate from my SAP system to my Azure storage, let's just say account. Yeah, one thing is sure, this Azure storage account will need some containers and we'll need some blob as well. We'll see how we can do that, how we can create that. Okay. Before that, for this communication to be established, okay, there should be some secure communication so that no one unauthorized can view my attachment, because there can be some sensitive documents and no one should be able to manipulate or upload their own as well. Okay. So that particular security is given by one concept called SAS, shared access signature. Okay, on top of it, if I say this one of the capability which Azure is providing, right? Maybe Microsoft Azure is providing us this capability, but someone would have developed it, isn't it? So someone would have developed some sort of, let's just say, API, some classes, some methods. They'll say, if you send me this, I'll upload it in my place, whichever you request for. So there should be some APIs as well. So we'll need two things for SAP to communicate with this Azure storage account. First thing we'll need is a secured access signature, which is nothing but a secure URL which contain security access for this account. okay, which contains security access for this account and the address for this specific account. This is what we'll need. So we'll see how we can create and secured access, I can say shared access signature. Another thing that we'll need over here is if some developer has already developed this, I don't know, right, how they are going to store it. They would have exposed something saying, hey, if you would like to upload, call this upload method. If you would like to download, call this download method. They would have written their own set of sweet logic within this upload and download. Okay. Those things are given in the form of open source APIs, open source packages. Okay. And these open source packages are something that we are supposed to we are supposed to consume and study and use it. Okay. Now, this is going to be the story for any of the packages that you consume within SAP CAP. Okay. So the idea is you are working on a CAP, which is nothing but a combination of CDS plus Node.js. Node.js comes up with a different kind of capability thanks to the open source packages which are generated on NPM layer. So I can say NPM packages which are available as an open source. This is the place where you will find all the packages that you will need. Whichever package that you need in order for your communication to be established, you have to use that, add it as a dependency in your project, and then use its underlying API methods to perform your operations. Okay. For example, for this Azure storage that we are talking about, there is one, let's just say package. So for example, I'll just simply say Azure storage NPM package. Okay, so it just suggested me Azure Storage blob. As we are going with a blob content, I can say Azure Storage blob. I can simply open this. And as you can see, it says Azure Storage blob library for JavaScript. Okay, it gives me different options. I can simply go over here and it gives me a way where using shared access signature, I can perform some operation, how the authentication can be done. Okay, after doing this, if you would like to upload some sort of a content, you can say how I can create a new container via my code. This is all code based. Okay, via your code, if you would like to perform something that you are doing over here manually, how you can do that. If you would like to view all the containers that has been created till date, how you can do that. If you would like to upload a content, a blob, how you can do that as well. These are given as a kind of a API documentation. So consider you are a developer who is developing something which is going to be reusable. You will expose it as an open source API. Plus you will give a documentation saying this is how you can access my API if you would like to. Okay. And there's the same sort of documentation we are also having over here. So this is the one that we are going to consume. Okay. Now, first thing, step number one. As we can see, we have a step number two, which where we'll need the packages. Okay, we'll consider, I can say some sort of an NPM package. We'll use it. Before that, let's just say this shared access signature we'll need, right? So how we can get that? So if you just go over here, you will find a shared access signature button. Here you will see that, okay, what all things you are supposed to work upon. So for example, I can go with container, but let's just get a broad control. So I'm just getting service and object. Okay, that's not an issue. You can have a blob, file, queue, table. You can work with everything within using this particular container. I would like to create a, let's just say access signature, which may be valid for certain duration. Now, each organization tries to create some sort of a signature which is valid for so and so time duration because of the security constraint. Ideally, organization create it for 6 months, a year, after which they'll revisit the security aspects of it. Okay, what we'll do is rather we'll create it, let's just say for a month. I'll just simply say, for example, 24th of Jan, and maybe I am creating this. So in order for me to have this, let's just say up and running, I'll just go by this 00. So that if there are some time differences, I don't get stopped. Okay. After that, you would see that I can go by some sort of all-out protocol. So I go with HTTP and HTTPS because I would like anyway this to get generated. So I'll just simply say whether you would like to generate some key, there are different ways. I'll just generate a basic key because that's what is available in my trial account. I'll just generate SAS and connection string. You will get a set of connection strings like this. These are the things that you will need in order for you to connect to those particular containers as a security. Okay, it has got some specific controls. So you would need this. I'll just simply copy these things and maybe we'll keep it. So going forward, I can use it whenever needed. Okay, let's see. This is token. I'll keep all of them. Let's see which one we'll need in order for us to work with that. Okay, so we have got this. Afterwards, if I say there are different ways, either I can go over here in this containers and you can keep a watch on like if there are any new containers which I am creating via my code, whether they are getting created or not. Okay. Another option is if you would like, you can simply download this software like I have Azure Storage Explorer. So like you have a database explorer, same way there is a storage explorer. You can go over here and connect your storage account. So within this storage account, you would be able to, let's just say view those things. There is nothing but a Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer, which is available free of cost. You can download it simply. Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer download. As you can see, you would find it over here, Azure Storage Explorer, and you will download it, and it's available for all those systems. Okay, so I'm not promoting Microsoft. I'm just saying for the use case that we need in order for us to easily understand this is how we can use it. I'll just simply right click over here and I can connect to my Azure storage account. So it might ask for different kind of a thing. I'll just simply say what all things I do have. So I'll say I have a storage account. Okay, I'll just click on this. What all things you have? Says, do you have let's just say, have you got a key or SAS? We have got that. Have you got a connection string? Yeah, we have got that, right? So I'll just copy this one and I'll just minimize this and I can pass any of this. So either of the way you can just connect over here. I'll just go next. I'll just pass this. It generates a name. Okay. I'll just simply say my storage account is Jan 23, 24. Okay. Let's just go next. Then you will be able to connect to this. It creates the same as let's just say view over here, using which you will be able to easily view the things which are available online over here. So rather than going always over here, you can simply view the things from here as well. Whatever containers and files and everything are available, the same will be visible over here in these containers as well. So our ultimate target is that via our CAP service, there is a place where we should be able to create the containers. This from the Azure side. Okay. Now let's just go over here and understand. I'll just go over here and simply say, I would like to create a CAP project using which I can do that. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll create a simple CAP project, which will be new. And that's the one that we'll be using for our purpose. Okay, let me just simply create a project. Meanwhile, if anyone is having any doubt, maybe you can speak up. Maybe we can discuss.
Sumit, I have one doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
please.
in so in SAP Wi-Fi in file uploader,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if we want to
Mm-hmm.
upload something, so we can restrict their like file type.
Right.
So according to like file uploader, we can give here also like everything like file size, file type, and like everything.
You can, yeah, you can store all those things whichever are being received. So like you would have seen, the media type is something that we are anyway using over here, right? We need that in order for us to store. So from
Mhm.
backend side, what you can do is you can store those information which you are receiving from the UI. Restrictions things is something that you can keep from the UI side. Backend will contain those information. You can store the file size, MIME type, and everything that you are going to pass from the UI. We can receive all those things. Bare minimum thing will be the three of them in order for us to easily identify a file, file name, the type of it, and the actual storage content of it. These are the
So
things.
okay, so Sumit, in like EY only we can restrict, right? Like just like in SAP Wi-Fi we are using file uploader. Okay, okay.
So, so
So in
you are
like
talking
in
about the
CAPM, what
file
we will
type.
use?
So
Yeah. So
CAP is okay. Yeah,
mhm,
understand this. CAP is not a UI generator. CAP is a
mhm,
backend service generator, right? So in
right.
CAPM, we don't need anything for us to restrict the kind of file that we are going to support. Yeah, there is a way using which in on the annotation level, you can simply specify that I can expect only Excel kind of a file. That's doable. But even if you do that, I can say on UI side, on the there are no controls, right? Because there is a service. Service does not have control. It only has the endpoints, right? So
Mhm,
even if I do that, if you are, let's just say, going to consume that service on your UI and you are going to bind it with the file controller, your file controller will still show all the particular kind of a file type till the time you don't restrict it from the UI side, right?
right, right.
So your question is, what are we using on CAP side? Like we have a file controller, we don't use anything. It's just an endpoint. All we can do is, let's just say, a backend developer who is doing a gateway service development or a CDS, what
Mhm.
they can do
Okay,
is
okay,
they can generate
okay,
an endpoint, test out, and then pass it on to UI developer who is going to consume it. Simple, right?
okay, okay, okay.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll create a project which we'll be using for BTPB Azure, for example. So we created this project and now we will use it. So let me just try to make the life a bit easier. I'll simply open this folder rather, so it's easy for us to manage. Okay, there's the one. Okay, it will just reload my space with just that folder, because I mean the number of projects are increasing into the space, so it's easy for us to focus on the one that we are working on. Okay, now, so we have this open. Now what we'll need is, we would like to connect all this thing. The first thing we will need is a kind of an entity. That's something we are going to create. I've kept the terminal open for the things that we need. I'll just create a new file. Let's just call again it as a nothing but a data model. Okay. And we'll, let's just say, name it as a, for example, btp.azure. Okay. And maybe we would need some aspects. So I'll just add those aspects from common. I'll just say CUID managed. Okay. And let's just say I would like to create some sort of a entity to store my relation of attachments with Azure, right? So I can create some table, as I mentioned, which will store the relation, saying if there is an attachment that you are uploading, that with this attachment has been stored onto the Azure with along with this container ID and file ID. Let's just keep it like that. I'll just simply say attachments, for example, right? Maybe let's just say CUID managed. Um, I'll just simply say name over here, and maybe let's just say my name can be anything of, let's just say, 255 characters. Let's just say the kind of file it's going to upload. For example, I'll simply say it can be any sort of a Excel, PDF, or anything. I'll just also set it as a MIME type 255. The Azure storage, a container it can have, because I would also need a container within which my file is going to get uploaded within Azure. So I'll just keep the container ID and file ID, because using that combination, I can simply recognize my files. I'll just simply say Azure file ID, and here I'll just simply say string 255. And yeah, I guess that's all for now. We don't need much properties, but if needed, maybe we'll use. Now, as you can see, we created this entity, which is simplest one, which does not have any media options. Because if we add a media option over here, then we'll need a content which is a binary, which will create again a binary content onto table. But we don't want that. Rather, we want that we'll receive a binary content, we'll pass it on, and you will upload the data, the binary content onto storage rather than onto the DB. Okay. It means we need a skeleton. We don't need a persistence. What do we have for that? We do have CDS persistence skip. So we'll simply say that we just need a skeleton. We do not need a persistence layer where those content can be stored. Okay, so we'll just simply say, let's just create some intermediate entity. So for example, I'll just simply say I have attachments. Let's just create some internal entity. I'm naming it as an internal. You can name it as anything. Now, in this int, I might have some sort of a way to uniquely identify my attachments. I'll just simply say string 36. On top of it, for example, you might need some content over here, which will be passed because this is the entity on which all your create, update, or I can say all your upload, download operations will be performed. This entity is going to be playing a role where your relation will be stored, but this is not going to play a front role for your application. This is going to play a front role for your application, which will be responsible for upload and download, which does not have any database persistency. So it doesn't matter whatever you write over here, it's not going to create a database table with this. The table will be with the skeleton. Okay, so I'll just simply say content and let's just say large binary over here. Okay, and another one maybe we would need is a MIME type. Okay, and maybe we'll simply say string. And let's just say I would also need some file name. Okay, now what all things we would need in order for me to decide, or I can say define that these are media entity. Let's just say these are core dot media type. And here, what are the things that we can map to media type? I can say MIME type is the property this time. Another one is let's just say core dot is media type. That's something we have to mark it as a true so that the system knows that yeah, there is a media type actually, and maybe how the content is going to get disposed. These are the bare minimum thing. Content disposition, and maybe we are going to say file name, and here I'm just saying file name. Okay. There is one more annotation you would see sometime that this content can also be marked in a way so that we know that these are stream kind of a data. You would see many a time also this is being used. It does not have much impact, but your content are flagged as a stream data. Okay. Now I have used this. After that, what you will need is you would need some sort of an endpoint onto which we will perform an operation. Okay, so let me just keep the eyes open by using a CDS watch. Okay, now we'll need some sort of a service. So as we are going to perform some operation, I'll just simply say Azure service.cds. Okay, I'll just simply say using btp.azure as BA from parent folder and say Azure file service will say this particular entity, that's something we are going to expose over here. We'll call it as a attachments, for example. Okay, which is nothing but going to be a entity which maximum I can use just to get the attachment list, right? Because here it cannot give me the actual data. I'll just say attachment list. It contains the list of attachment that has been uploaded till date. I'll just say select from my BA dot attachments. Okay, other than that, maybe the internal entity we created, I'll just simply name it as this one attachments int. attachments int, for example, as select from BA dot this one. So we created a attachments instance as well. This is something which is having a database persistency on top of it. This does not. Okay. Now, another one is maybe we have to now enrich this thing with a controller part as well. So this time, let's just not go with something which is having a different name. Rather, let's just go with something which is having the same name. So I'll just try to copy this name and I'll just create one file which is having a .js extension. So now I see that, okay, it's saying implementation has been done in this one. As simple as that. I did not wrote IMPL annotation, but as the names are same, I can get those things. Okay. Now I'll just define a skeleton for my, let's just say controller. I'll just say require CDS. We have already done that earlier. Module.exports. Okay. And here I'll just simply say CDS.service.impl. Here I'll just simply say SRV. Okay, so we have got this thing which says this is going to play a role of my service implementation over here. Okay, now after having this, my purpose is that whenever someone says I would like to upload an attachment, I would like to allow that. Whenever someone says I would like to download an attachment, I would like to allow that. And whenever someone says delete an attachment, I would also like to allow that. Okay, now let's just think from a backend call perspective because we have to do the implementation for that particular relevant backend call, right? I'll simply say if someone is saying that I would like to upload an attachment. You remember when we were doing that media attachment, or I can say media entity thing, we found that for us to upload an attachment, it requires two backend calls, one post call, one put call, correct? So if I'm supposed to create a handler which can help me with the upload, download, or anything, the upload mechanism is always associated with a post and put call. If someone says I would like to download it, it means that's a call which is associated with a get call of an entity. And if someone is saying I would like to delete it, it means the delete HTTP call is associated over here, right? So we have to create a relevant handler which will handle two calls over here. In case of host post and put, a single handler will be triggered. In case of get something, and in case of delete, something will get triggered. That's the idea. That's something we should be doing. Okay. Now, in order for us to make the things even more clear, more readable, let's just try to create one more file over here, which is going to handle all this upload download. We'll just modularize the thing as we were discussing in the last session, how we can make the things more readable. Okay, so I'll just simply say Azure, let's just say attachment handler. And I'll just simply say JS. Okay, and here what I'll do is I'll create certain files, or I can say certain, let's just say functions which we'll be using. So for example, I would need something which will help me with the upload of that. So I'll just simply say upload attachment. Okay, and here I'll just create a function which will be responsible for that. This is for upload. Same way I might need something for download. I'll just simply say module.export download attachment. So the custom handler implementation, the one which we learned in the last session, that's the one that we are using right now, saying how I can have a function, I can create those and how I can make those public as well. So that's the concept that we are using over here. And at the same point in time, as we are spending more time into CAP, we are trying to make the things more neat and clean. Okay. So I got this. Now afterwards, I have to use these methods, these functions, I can say, for our operation. So I would need a connect for this. How can I do that? I can simply create a handle for this. So for example, I'll just simply say LO attachment handler. Okay, and I'll just simply say I would need something, but where I can get it from. So I'll just simply say you can get it from your current folder. Azure attachment handler. Here we have all the functions already defined, even though they are empty, but we do have placeholder which is responsible, or I can say which is going to be responsible for attachment upload operation. Now, I would like to upload an attachment in Azure. I would need a handler which can handle my post and put call. Post and put call are going to be triggered on this entity. I hope these hints are sufficient for us to define an handler, right? So I'll just simply say that SRV dot on, okay, and here which operation I'm talking about? A post and the put. So if I have more than one operation, I can simply say in round bracket, sorry, in the square bracket, I can simply say I would like to perform some create operation and update operation both if either of the call I am getting for which entity. So I'll just simply say for this entity over here, then I would like to do the attachment upload. I'll just simply say upload an attachment. So going forward, whenever you receive a post or put call on this entity, which are ideally responsible for your attachment upload, you would simply see this particular handler getting triggered. Okay, now same way we can implement something for download as well. Okay, so I'll just simply say srv.on, but this time it is a read one because the read is nothing but a get. Okay, and we'll just simply pass this over here. Okay, I'll just simply say download attachment. And again, the last one for the deleting an attachment from the storage. Okay, I'll just simply say delete. Whenever you receive a delete call, there is the placeholder. There is the person you can reach out to. I can say delete attachment. So a nice, neat and clean service implementation saying these are the operation which I'm redirecting to this one. Same way, if you have 1000 endpoint, you will just see an index, a kind of an entry point for this. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, what we got is that for us to perform any operation, we would need a shared access signature we downloaded. We'll use it whenever needed. But in order for those APIs also to be consumed, we would need some package over here, right? So let's just get this package over here, Azure Storage Blob. If you would like, you can simply click on this icon over here, which will copy this installation command from here. Okay, and let's just try to close this terminal, clear this out, and try to install this dependency. Okay, so we have got a dependency in the package.json, which is responsible for my Azure storage blob. Okay, now let's just try to make the things ready so that they can be used for my further operation. Okay, so I'll simply try to make the things ready whichever are needed because we don't want to go with in memory because the moment we say our operation is done, we might lose the control of it. Rather, what we might need is we might need a things that can be stored onto my DB. Okay, so I'll simply say BTP BE Azure over here, and here maybe we would like to add the HANA dependency to it. So I'll just simply say CDS add HANA. Maybe let's just say npm install at the rate SAP HANA client. Okay, and maybe we'll also install HANA DB. Okay, and what else we do have? Maybe we'll just add few things from the security perspective. So tomorrow, whenever we need, we have that. And maybe the last one, SAP Access Security. Okay, so we have got the package mostly that we need, at least for now. Maybe going forward, we might need more. We'll add that as well. Okay, other than that, maybe we would need the components also to be generated. So we have a running HANA instance on which we can do those operations. So I'll just simply, let's just say, try to do the login first. Okay, and let's just generate those components. Those are available for my operation. So I have got a HANA DB persistency. Okay, so I think this is going to get generated soon. Afterwards, what we might also need is some sort of a backend call so that we can perform my OData operation using which an attachment can be uploaded. I guess we have did that earlier already, I guess in the last session. Same way we'll do it right now as well. Okay.
Sumit,
Yeah, please.
uh, yes, sorry to interrupt. Like
Yeah,
it
no
is
worries.
like saying, please be patient. So, Sumit, suppose that I have a scenario. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Uh, okay. In a table. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose that five column, and in the sixth column, I have a
Mm-hmm.
requirement like file uploader for each row.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In CAPM. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we will create according to like DB. In DB table, we will create like a five column, okay, and in the six
Mm-hmm.
column. So according to this, also we need to create for file uploader also, same as right.
Right. So there are two aspects to it. Okay. First, when I say I have got some database table which contains my actual data,
Mm-hmm,
there is a way saying either you can create a look. The first idea is you should always push your data which is relevant to normal data into the HANA database. The one which is relevant to
mm-hmm,
Azure, you should ideally put it into Azure. So if I am saying that your uh, some of the record are going to have some attachment reference, I'll simply say just create a database table with a actual record, create a another table which contains attachment. And there is one concept that we are going to learn maybe in the week that follows is an
mm-hmm,
association. What you can do is there will be an attachment table, there will be a data table, you will associate both of them. So in the single backend call, you will get the data of all, but as your attachment is a separate business entity, right? You will store it in the separate entity, the relation of it, which is going to be this Azure storage. Okay. As a best practice. Okay. So one aspect to it could be that either you have a, let's just say a data entity. For example, I'll just call it as a entity data. And another one, I can
mm-hmm.
have an entity attachment. And
Okay, so we need to create two entity, right?
exactly, yeah. So that's as per the
Yeah.
best
So
practice. I am saying both the ways it
mhm,
can be done. There is a best practice,
yeah.
what ideally is suggested. Another way can be that you can go with entity data. Okay, that's over here. After your
Mm-hmm,
data has been uploaded, you can write some handler. So for example, if I say my entity data has been uploaded in the create after of it, okay, in the create after handler, you know srv.after we have already used it. There you
mm-hmm,
can upload your actual attachment, and there you can also write some code to upload your DB. Update your DB with that particular record for Azure container and file ID. This is also one of the way that single entity can contain the data. In that particular case, you won't have anything with a CDS persistent skip. Rather, your entity data will be there, which will contain all your data. If that's centralized, as in if it's a central DB, you can have CDS persistent exist. But at end of the day, it will have database storage. If you're going by that route, you have to go by create and then SRV dot after. This is a way. Best practice says you should have two entities with the separate data. So the data is stored in a relevant tables. Okay, and you will
okay.
associate one with the another via means of attachment. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Sumit, suppose that I have like customer ID, customer name, okay, and customer file, okay, in a table, three column, okay. So I will
Mm-hmm.
create one entity set, like customer
Mm-hmm.
ID, customer name, and
Mm-hmm.
inside that we can create one like file upload type
What you
key
can do
in
is,
table.
look, yeah, what you will have is customer ID, customer name, and there will be a
And
attachment reference, right?
attachment. Yes, yes,
So there will be attachment reference. So what will happen is,
yes.
so I'll simply say
Mhm.
that, for example, just for you to understand, this can be an entity which contains some data entity. Okay. And here you have a column one, which will be
Yeah,
some sort of a string. Okay. And
string.
after
Okay.
this, for example, you have got some ID of it. I'll just simply say CUID.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
Hmm.
what you will have is you will have some attachments. Okay,
Yes,
and
yes.
this is the one that we are going to learn next. You will simply say associated to one or
Okay.
many, depending on how many attachment it can have, and you will just give the name
Okay.
of it. So what it will do is the moment you generate an entity, the moment you generate, let's just say OData service, you will see that this some data has got two property. Column one
Two
plus it
properties
would have
and
got
attachments.
attachments is not going to an property. Attachments will have a property called attachments underscore the key of it. So the ID that will get generated will be attachments ID. Attachments underscore ID. This is a property that will get generated. What it will contain? Automatically, it will contain the primary key of this table. So always you will have a table which will contain a reference to your attachments primary key over here. So using this key, you can individually identify which are that particular attachment which is relevant to this. Provided you have a case of one attachment for record. If you have a case of multiple record, you can simply say attachments over here, it can be anything, association to many, and then you can
Many.
specify that this particular attachments, let's just say ID over here is matching with ID of this. So in that case, what you can do is vice versa, the ID of this, the primary key of this, you will ultimately add over here. I'll just say some data over here, association to one, and then you will add a, let's just say some data. Okay. So
Some data.
what it would create is it will add this particular data ID over here. So for each of the attachment, it will say, hey, this is an attachment. I have 50 attachment, but this attachment is relevant to this data. This attachment is relevant to this data. Likewise, this linkage will be available. So your data will
Mhm.
be two, but while you are
Mhm.
querying it, right? You know, REST API ideally allows you querying using association and navigations. So using your navigation, this will become your navigation in either of the case. You can simply say some data question mark dollar expand, and the moment you write this in the same OData output, you will get all this data in a single call. But technically, modularization wise, they are being stored into two different tables.
Okay. And whatever you are writing for attachment, all like for get, for create, everything. So we will write same as, right?
So if you are writing, or I can say if you are creating two different entity, you will follow the same approach which I am doing. If you are going by just a
Okay.
single entity like you just mentioned earlier, then you have to go by SRV after, which is not a clean way. That's a dirty way of doing it. We
Yes, yes,
don't do
yes,
that.
yes.
Okay.
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 So okay. Okay.
We are going to have a concept of attachment. Sorry, we are going to have a concept of association and with a concept of association to one and many. We are going to learn this maybe. Don't worry. There we'll have a
Okay.
relation between multiple tables. We'll see how the modularization can be done, but still on output on the OData out front, you will have both the
Yeah.
data being served in the single call.
Mhm.
Okay.
So like a dollar save one too many, we can use in like master detail application also, right?
Any, yeah,
So
master
for
detail application
yeah.
is a, one of the example.
Mhm.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. 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 Sorry. Okay.
No worries. Yeah. Thanks. Because these are the things which are already available in one or another OData technology. So these also one way of generating OData. So how we can do that in a CAP? Definitely, that's a genuine question. That's a good thing. Okay, no worries. Okay, so
Okay.
I have got this attachments. I have deployed this to a Cloud Foundry. Let's just try to connect to this one as well, so we can use it going forward for my connection. I'll just simply create a configuration for my Azure project. Okay, let's just try to bind to HANA. This is Azure DB instance we just created. With this style, there is some issue, I'm not sure, but very first time you try binding it, 99% of the cases it fails. For the second time when you do it, it works. So can't help it.
Yes, this is no, yeah.
It's
First
a
time it will
common,
show error.
exactly. Yeah, first time it will fail. Next time you try binding it, it works. So
Yeah,
there
it
is an issue
works.
with trial because in my real account, I never faced this issue.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so it has found it. Now we can proceed with the operation that follows. So we have got this particular things working, and let's just try to view the metadata ones, CDS watch, profile, hybrid. Okay, so it has connected to my DB. I see those things also available. Okay, and I will have some metadata as well. So definitely this Azure implementation, it's not going to get over maybe in this one session, definitely, because it's consuming those API upload, download. So definitely it might take more than one session, but that's fine. Okay, so now I have this one. I have added the things those I need. Now, another thing we would need is some sort of a way using which I can actually do the testing of whether my attachments and everything is going to get uploaded correctly, right? So let's just create a required folder over here. Okay, maybe it's not the right place.
If you drag it to bottom, I think so it will work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to. At least, I mean, the place at which I am doing it will anyway allow me doing the test at HTTP, but
Yes.
point is that won't be much clean.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Okay, I'll just go by saying I would like to load the metadata first. And another thing we'll need is we'll just need some taste data so we can try out those things and start with the actual implementation. Plus the last option we would need is a OData V2 proxy as well. So I can go in a scenario where if double calls are getting triggered in a single run, how those are handled. That's also one of the operation we can just try using. Okay, where it is here. Okay, and the last thing we would need is a server file. Okay, so now we have got an option of having two things working at the same point in time, and I'll just simply say CDS watch profile hybrid. Okay, so I'll just simply say I would like to get something in the form of this one, which is nothing but this one. Let me just call this. What is the endpoint? It says there is an endpoint. It has Okay, and it has got some dollar metadata. So we have got the metadata and we would need it in the V2 format. This is V4. Let's just add a V2 over here. Okay, now another thing we would need is I would like to upload an attachment. But this time, this attachment should be uploaded into a Azure one. Okay, so in order for us to upload an attachment like we did it in the last session, let me just try to have something uploaded over here. I'll just upload a file onto my desktop, which is this one. Okay, and now let's just try to go with some sort of a post operation over here. We'll just simply go over here, copy this. The operation that we'll be performing will always be in this one because there is a media entity, right? The last one is a media entity. We have exposed it with this name. Okay. This time we have to pass some sort of a slug parameter as well, whatever name I would like to upload it with. So for example, I'll just simply say my taste pdf.pdf, for example, and content type over here. Application .pdf it will be. And we would need a path for this. So I'll just simply say it's nothing but a SRV and the name of the file is taste1.pdf. Okay, so we have got this thing. Now we have to see how the things are working. Initially, if you try doing this, you might start getting some error. As you can see, it says the ID is not found and all these things. So we have to now implement these things one by one.